Madlab Performance presents The Lab Podcast. Here's your host and chief mad scientist, Dan Gilbert.
Hello and welcome everybody to The Lab. I'm here with Alec Bulat, executive producer as you guys know him. But did you know that he is an avid Olympic lifter? Is that correct?
That is true. That's
Olympic lifter
very true.
extraordinaire, one could say.
Ooh, I don't know about extraordinary.
The greatest Olympic lifter in Olympics history. Maybe.
So far from the truth, it's not even funny.
I like to fall way off on the side of the truth.
Like,
There's this old saying that Mike and I have.
Yeah.
The truth is for other people.
I was going to say, if I just told people my best numbers, they'd be like, that's not even relatively close to the Olympics.
Well, they are much better than our numbers, so we're impressed.
That's right.
Olympic lifting, how did you get into it? Don't even answer that. Don't even answer that before I do this promotion, of which I've had the protein, and I love the protein,
Yes.
by the way. But today's podcast is brought to you by FNX Fitness. If you're looking for a supplement company that will help you rise up, look no further than FNX Fitness, with products ranging from Recharge to help amp up your workout, Restart for your AM protein blend, that's important, and Rebalance for all of your super green needs, which is really important, Alec, because I don't really eat vegetables. I know, I'm sorry, everyone, but I do need green powders. Whether it be gaining muscle or just looking to live a healthier life, FNX will help you get there. For 15% off of all FNX products, use the code MADLAB, capital M, capital L, and make sure you put that in at checkout. Let's get you one step closer to all of your fitness and nutrition goals.
Golf clap.
Thank
Golf
you,
clap.
sir.
That's good.
I still need the computer to do it. I know everyone, but this is...
It's just the way the world works sometimes.
It's the way my memory works. I love FNX, but I feel like I'll get too excited and I'll be stumbling over my words more than I already do.
Yeah. For future reference, though, I use their greens for real because exactly what you talked about. Like,
I've seen it.
Do not get the veggies in that I need.
I need to start. But the protein, I do like the protein.
Yeah.
I'm going to inch my way over to the greens.
Yeah.
Start using some of the other stuff. But
it's good
stuff. Old FNX. Love them. Speaking of excitement, though, and love, let's talk about your excitement and love of Olympic lifting. When did it start?
So it's kind of an interesting question because it's like it was kind of a progression through like just sports, lifting for sports, right? Like you and I both played sports, right? We know that lifting was
a couple of times.
You sported once or twice. So we had to, I would imagine you had to lift for whatever it was that you played, right?
Yeah.
Like rugby, etc.
Lacrosse, and rugby. We lifted for all of it.
Yeah. So for me, I kind of did the same thing, right? My friends are going to love this story because I'm going to be telling something that I don't really talk about very much, but they crack up at this. So in college, I determined that I was going to try and switch to playing football after, and I just want to clarify, never playing in my life beforehand. In college, I decided I'm going to try.
Wait, at Oregon?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just going to go D1, walk on.
Yep, that was the plan. So, but the thing was that I was a soccer player my entire life. I was hockey. I was athletic, and I liked to lift, right? That was pretty much it. And I needed something to do, so I was just like, fuck it. You know what? I'm going to try and play football like every other normal person. And I determined that I was going to do it at one of the best powerhouse programs in the entire nation.
Yeah, at least you're ambitious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I got into Olympic lifting based on training for football. Like it was mostly cleans at first, but then I started training a little bit at a CrossFit gym. And they had me doing, they had me snatching, they had me cleaning, they had me doing, et cetera, all that good stuff. And then I just kind of took to it. And then I realized that like the part that I actually enjoyed and the part that I really wanted to keep doing was just the lifting, right? Was Olympic lifting, squatting, front squatting, all of that stuff. It was my favorite part of the entire process, right? Even the field work, I enjoyed the field work. I enjoyed the like actual practice stuff. And I even played a year of semi-pro football. I'm going to use huge air quotes on that because it was not impressive.
The semi-pro game is very interesting. We talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah, it's very, people are going to listen and be like, semi-pro? Trust me, it's not what you think.
Most people can kind of walk on to a semi-pro if you pay the fees.
Yes,
You're
yes.
Like, here's $100 and I have my own pad. So
yep, that's
like,
pretty much
welcome
it.
to us.
Exactly. And I saw the field like 3 times. Weirdly enough, that team had like, I want to say about 10 or 12 guys who played D1 ball at some point.
That's a good amount, though.
Right?
A lot of those
Yeah.
semi-pro teams don't even have that.
Oh, they were
They have
trash,
like
yeah.
2 or 3, and then the rest of like you have some people that are like, I've always wanted to play football.
Yeah.
And then you have some other people that you're like, I have no idea why you're here. And then you
Yeah.
have some others that played in high school or like various other places.
Yeah, so we had a weird combination of like D2, D3, right? Some D1, as I said. We had like Oregon State, Oregon players who would just...
That's what makes it dangerous, though, because you have these guys that are D1, and then you have these guys that either played high school or were just athletic and never played.
Yep.
So they're not really sure what they're doing, but they're athletic.
Yep.
And then they're slamming into these other guys that are like really good at their sport.
Yep.
And so it's just, it's a mix for horrible injuries to happen.
That was me. Luckily, I never got injured, right? Yeah. So I was the latter on that, right? I was the guy who thought he was athletic enough to try and play.
Right.
And so I barely saw the field. I was pretty much exclusively a special teamer.
Yeah, if you had 12 guys that played D1.
I mean, yeah, it was just like
probably
we had a
guys at
few
a high
guys
level
from
too.
Oregon
Yeah.
State, exactly. Yeah, so it made zero sense that I was out there, right? But once again, I lifted to try and get to this goal, right? And from there, I just really started to love Olympic lifting, especially the clean. That's easily my favorite exercise. I might argue that the power clean is my favorite exercise out of all of the exercises out there. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. I
But
just
clean
love
and
it.
jerk's your favorite Olympic lift?
So I would say, yeah, probably. I was always a bit of a better clean and jerk person than I was snatch, right? I wasn't super effective at snatching. My mobility a lot of times kind of hindered me there. I wasn't really able to get really into a good bottom position at the snatch. And so my best snatch ever was 95 kilos. And I think that totals out
much
to
better than
about
mine.
211, right? 211 pounds. Something like that. Maybe it's a little under. I can't remember. But
That's right.
my clean and jerk was I believe 130. Yeah, so about 290 pounds. I
God
believe.
dang.
Yeah. So and for like real competitive numbers, that's nothing, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, like if you guys watched the Olympics recently, you saw that people were putting up like
For sure.
200
But
kilo.
again, those
clean
are
and
the
jerks
best
and
in the
stuff
world
like that. Yeah.
that we're talking about. So no, those numbers are impressive. I've never been able to do that. One, my mobility is not like the greatest in the world, and then two, I have these monkey arms. And I was getting my USAW. You have your USAW as well. And so I was getting that certification, and the guy was like, "You really want for this sport, you want short arms." And I was doing it with a bunch of my staff from a gym at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You want really short arms." And he was like telling you where your elbow should be versus your head. And my whole staff, like, they're all sitting in seats while he's doing the lecture part, and they all just turn and swivel to me and look at me, and I'm like, "Nah, I guess I'm gonna be terrible at this."
Guess this isn't my sport, guys.
Right. It's like, the arms are too long for Dan to do this.
Yep. Yeah, man. It was fun though. Like I'm not necessarily the optimal body positioning. Like, like there's like that, like you should have short femurs because you can like get really easily into a deep squat, right? I don't exactly have like short femurs compared to the rest of my body. I'm not optimal, but I'm definitely not suboptimal either, right? Like I'm in a good enough spot to be.
But then that probably
stocky.
makes your numbers even more impressive though. That you didn't have like an optimal build for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's probably a lot of people who step on stage who aren't necessarily optimal, right? Like you look at like the Chinese weightlifting team, and a lot of them are like quote unquote optimal, but like you look at some of those big like Eastern Bloc European guys, and they're definitely not meant for Olympic lifting, but they're still throwing numbers out there. So
yeah, for sure.
But-
No, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, so we were the Copenhagen's. That was like another one from Europe. I mean, I know it's not like Eastern Europe, but I was like we were just thinking about it today. I was like, Alec is right. There's a lot of things
European
that are named.
names,
If that's where it came from.
Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts,
For sure. There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's a whole nother podcast, as you said. You've competed a couple times.
Yeah,
Correct?
a few times. Yeah.
What was this part where you were like, not only do I love doing this, but I want to compete? Was there somebody that was instrumental and be like, Alec, you need to compete, or was it just something that you came up with? How did that happen?
To be honest with you, man, I was hesitant to compete for a while, right? Because I'd been on stage and in like different positions in my life where I'd been in front of like a group of people doing something, but not quite in that manner. And I think I was really, I really want to be stronger and stronger and stronger.
You're very much by yourself up there.
Yeah, exactly. It's and I'll get to that in a second for sure, because I think it's an important note. But I would say that the biggest thing for me was I was hesitant to go up there because my numbers were never where I wanted them to be. Right. So I kept kind of pushing it off and off. And it wasn't until I like made a firm decision that I was like, no, I'm going to do this because I want to do it. Right. I want to go out there. I want to show out. And that's when I signed up for my first competition. I had done 2 when I was in college, but they were really low level. But the first like true competition that I signed up for, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do this for me. I want to go out there. And I went 6 for 6, which is big. Anybody who lifts is, yeah. And there's a rush that you get on stage. That's
that means he missed none of his lifts.
Means I missed none. Yeah.
Which is like, awesome.
Thank you for clarifying. For everybody out there, it means I snatched 3 for 3 and I clean and jerk 3 for 3. It's a quick breakdown of Olympic lifting competitions. You have 3 attempts at a snatch, 3 attempts at a clean and jerk. That's all you get, right? That's it. Like no matter what the numbers are, that's all you have. And just the entire process itself was like
choosing the weights is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Right. So like choosing because you have to choose your lead up too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What made? I mean, I guess just from lifting constantly, but like, is there any time that you were in a competition where you switched something that you were going to do, or did you always have your plan going in and that's what you were going to execute?
My last competition that I did, I switched up stuff. The first one, I stuck to the plan and just went out there and did it, right? I had a progression of 80 kilo, 85 kilo, 90 kilo snatch, boom, 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 did it. 110, 115, 120 clean and jerk, and boom, 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 did it, right? That was it.
That's awesome.
It was one of those things, I wanted to get a feeler in there too, and my coach at the time and I had talked about it, and we're like, you know what, let's get one in the books, give you some numbers that we know you can hit, and that you've done a million times in repetitions like preceding the actual competition. And so I did that, right? I just went out there and got a
because then it gives you go through a competition, you gain confidence.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like you're going into like the Olympics every 4 years and be like, well, let's just try this today. And you're like, this is not the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool. I haven't really thought about, because again, I'm really terrible at Olympic lifting for many reasons. So I've never really thought about it from a competition standpoint. I watched a little bit in Olympics, but I was very much a spectator. So I think it's cool to hear the ins and outs of it and the strategies behind it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating sport for sure, because there is a lot of intricacies. Because if you do, let's say you have typically your first weight that you do, either for the snatch or the clean and jerk, should be a guaranteed make, right?
Right.
Or it's something
you missed that one, it seems like.
Yeah, it's rough, especially for the snatch, because the snatch comes first, right? Clean and jerk is second. So a lot of people say snatch what you can, clean and jerk what you have to, right? Or clean and jerk what you must. So like after you get done with snatching, you know exactly what numbers you have to get to win the entire competition, right? So
okay.
Yeah. So but really
go into that, give everybody an example, because I think that's a cool thing, because again, that's something that even watching the sport I've never really thought about, other than the announcers like, he needs to hit this to win, you know what I'm saying? But like in a competition you probably have to know that, because you don't have some Olympic announcer telling you so.
Yeah, exactly. So it's as simple as like, let's take my competition that I was just telling you about, right? Let's say that I had gone up and hit 80, 85 but missed my 90, right? And then the guy right next to me, the guy who I'm competing with in my weight class, right, hit his 90, right?
So most of those competitions aren't overall.
It's a total.
Okay. All right. For some reason, I thought it broke down into.
So there are competitions that you can get like the gold in the clean and jerk and the gold in the snatch, and you can medal based on that, right? But those are like worlds, and I believe like the USA Open, right, or stuff like that. Those typically you'll medal in a certain lift, right? But the total is really the big one, right? In the Olympics, it's the total.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So you have to be conscious of the total.
This is good.
you're learning, Dan.
I love it. Is there, when you're in competition, is there any amount, and I have no idea if this happens or not, but if it does, it makes me really happy. Is there anything where like you go to a bunch of competitions? I know you've done a couple of them, but there's probably Olympic lifters you follow. You probably follow the sport a little bit, right? Is there anything where there's like somebody has an arch nemesis and there's some trash talking leading up, or any of that, or is like all of it very much very gentlemanly.
I would say
nice
it's
job, sir.
it's a gentleman's sport for sure. There's some like people want to beat each other, right?
Yeah.
But like if you really watch, and I've watched a lot. Like I am a fan of the sport, right?
Oh,
Like
cool.
I've watched a lot. I used to watch a lot more than I do now. But I would, be watching YouTube videos all the time of just people going up and doing their competitive lifts and stuff like that, and even training videos. I loved the sport, right? I loved actually competing and stuff, but what I really love is coaching. So for me, like watching those, I really like picking up in cues and stuff like that. It's kind of more of the gentleman side of things. Like people are, they want to win, but at the same time, like nobody's gonna like sit there and bash you in the back, right? Like they're not gonna talk trash. People want each other to do well, and I would say there's high character in Olympic lifting because it's really just you competing against yourself,
Right.
right? Because you already know to an extent where you're at before you step on stage, and if somebody's just way above you, like that's not gonna change that day. Right.
Right. Yeah, because there's not going to be an element of luck where you get like a strong breeze or something. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go.
Exactly.
Yeah, you already do have an idea, and then if you can progress on that or hit something that's like your all-time high or meet the mark that you wanted to, I guess that you've really succeeded that day.
Yeah.
And all of the competitive portion comes in the training leading up.
For sure.
How far do you pull ahead from your training?
Yeah.
That does make a lot of sense. Is there anything, if it is a gentleman's sport, is there any etiquette that you need to follow where if you do this, that is a huge no-no?
Oh, for sure. For sure. There's like if the other person's on stage, you're quiet. Like if somebody's about to lift, you are fucking silent.
So it is just dead silence.
It has to. Well, I mean, people will be training in the back potentially and getting some lifts in, but if everybody knows that somebody's about to step on stage and hit a lift, people will typically be like, yo, like chill for a sec, wait to get your practice rep in, and like keep going after
So if
that.
you're like near the stage talking on the phone loudly, you're getting punched in the face.
I was about to say, you're getting thrown out in
awesome.
seconds. Yeah.
See, I love the little etiquette things. It's just stuff that you don't think about. Is there anything else like that?
Well, I mean, besides just like, it's just a quiet thing. I would say like you're also like, there's a lot of small intricacies and etiquettes. Like there's people who go as far as to say, don't ever step over somebody's barbell, right? Like you're not, there's like a lot of like small, like, and once again, gentleman class things, right? Where
would anybody do that on purpose where like they go over and they look at you and they're like,
it's not a troll.
over.
It's not a troll sport at all. Like people would not
I kind of
troll
wish
each
it
other.
was.
You would be the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't do it. I just want someone. I always like I like when there's a villain.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of things that make anything interesting in life in general is contrast.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have that villain, you have that guy that everybody roots for. All that contrast is what makes things like super interesting.
And I think there's no heels, right? From like a wrestling standpoint, there's no heels.
That's a great analogy.
In Olympic lifting, but like the controversies come from like different things, right? Like training styles and like, are we using PEDs or not? Like stuff like that, right? Like controversies come out.
Is that so? The PEDs, because I feel like I've seen people in lifting call out other lifters that way, like publicly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happened.
Yeah, so I feel like that would be kind of a thing where there's
the entire Russian organization. Yeah, no, seriously, they got busted. Yeah, there's a lot of PED use for Olympic lifting. Well, that's part of the whole reason that they had to do the Olympic team of Russia, or Olympic Committee of Russia, I think was what they were officially called, instead of Russia representing the country.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because they got busted for multiple like types of like PEDs, and I want to say a few different sports, but weightlifting was a big one for them. They got busted.
Oh wow.
And a lot of people have. Like there's Pyros Spiros, one of the I hope I didn't botch that name. One of the like most decorated Greek Olympic lifters.
If you did, he'll call you Alex instead of Alec.
He actually coaches. Yeah, right. Yeah. What kind of monster would do that?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he has been like unofficially busted for PED use as well. He holds tons of golds. There's just been a lot of like, the Bulgarian system is a huge thing from back in the day, and this is going to be some real like niche stuff that a lot of people listening will not understand. So I'm not going to go too far into it, but like there's been a decent amount of drug use in Olympic lifting, especially at high levels.
Anytime you get to a high level of any sport,
yeah,
you're going to see ways to cheat the sport.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime that there's any publicity to be made or any money to be made or anything like that, you're going to find your elements you are going to find your villains. See, Dan gets his villains
Exactly.
at the end of the day.
Exactly.
No matter what. I love it. Is there anybody in the sport where you're like, I love watching this person lift. This is somebody who I would aspire to lift like, or like, is there anybody like that for you?
Oh yeah, there's multiple, and I'll shout them out. The recent American record breaker, Wes Kitts. He's
Okay.
he
Good
actually he played running back at he was a college running back somewhere. I can't exactly remember off the top of my head right now, but he's a monster. He just broke the Olympic record, or Olympic American record, I should say, for snatch, 177 kilos.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's a huge hero of mine. He's actually a cool dude too. Like, I remember one time I reached out to him on Instagram and he like actually messaged me back.
Oh, that's cool.
I was just
That'll
saying,
make you
like,
a fan real quick.
yeah, I'm also just like, hey, good luck, man. Like, have a great competition. I hope you represent the country well. You're amazing, and I think you're a great lifter. And he was like, thanks, bro. Like, I appreciate it. Like, hope
cool,
everything's good with you. And I'm like, thanks, man. Yeah. I just like absolutely fanboyed out for a second. But then
what made you before that interaction? Because again, that interaction makes you a fan of anybody.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But is there anything? What made you a fan of his before that?
I think it's just his grit, dude. It's just something about him. He just goes out there every day and just has like a good mentality. He seems to just love what he does, right? And he just trains really hard and just like keeps working to get better. And he just has literally progressed like what you would expect one of your clients to do, right? If you're just like taking them from like point A to point B, he just comes in, he does what he needs to do. He rehabs himself through the injuries, but at the end of the day, he keeps going, and he just keeps breaking records, for American records, I should say, specifically, because he just keeps putting in the work, right? It's kind of like that traditional All-American, like just grind and kind of day where he, day after day after day, he just does what he needs to do, doesn't bitch and complain about it, and then just goes out there and then shows up on the day, right? Shows up.
That's respectful. That's definitely respectful for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, there is one more guy.
Well, I want to hear about all of them.
And there's the other, I mean, I could list a million, but the other guy that I'm a huge fan of named is Wu Jiajun. He's Chinese, 81 kilo, I think is where he competes. Dude he's actually, I want to say he's like around your age, and he just got a gold medal as well. I think it was his 4th gold medal, maybe 3rd or 4th.
Oh, so he's a couple ahead of me.
Yeah, just a couple.
All right, I see him over there.
Yeah, and he's just a monster. He's just a continuous guy. Same thing with Wes. He just does what he needs to do. Just keeps getting after it every single time. Shows up on the world stage every single year after year. The dude is absolutely jacked, but also like you would not expect a person that size to be able to lift the way he does. Like he is lifting as much as guys that are like twice his size are lifting. It's insane. He's just so strong.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Are these guys that are like that guy? Has he always been an Olympic lifter his whole life?
Wu Jiajun?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
I think he was like up the ranks of the Chinese ladder, right?
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was kind of a farm system guy compared to like Wes, who just like switched over at a certain point.
Is there anybody that you feel like? And I know it's a strange question for this sport, but is there anybody that you feel like is overrated? Where you're like, not to call him out, but is there anything where you're like, man, or even a system where you're like, this system is overrated because of X, Y, and Z, and the people that do it, here's why I don't like it, or anything like that?
To be honest, man, it's not really like that with the sport. It's not like football in that way, right? You're not sitting there saying like, oh, he's just a product of the system, right? Like the system is the system.
Like, F the air raid.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like it's not the same fashion. Like we don't think about it in the same way. Like guys are going out there and lifting. The biggest thing, I think the ones that irk me, right, are more just the people who are like, their form just looks horrendous, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, like you can't imagine that they feel good leaving the stage.
But they got it up.
Yeah. Like that's the only thing that kind of makes me like, like I don't like watching it as much. The reason I like watching the Chinese weightlifting team so much is because their form is literally just, it's pretty. It's pretty. It's really.
So it's like a work of art.
Really, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is a work of art. And Olympic lifting, I think that's what drew me to it so much. Besides, like, I could have gone to powerlifting. I could have gone to a bunch of other stuff, right? But the reason I liked Olympic lifting so much more was because it was so technical. It was so much. It was artistic.
They're very complicated lifts.
Yes,
they very really complicated lifts.
Yeah, and the snatch, for everybody who doesn't know, the snatch is you're bringing the bar from the ground all the way to overhead in one fluid motion. And for the clean and jerk, you're doing it in 2 motions, right? You're bringing it to your shoulders first and then pressing it overhead, right? In a different,
a little bit of a split.
Yeah, depends. You can squat jerk it as well. You don't actually have to squat jerk.
I don't know if I've watched somebody do that.
Oh, Wu Jiajun, the guy that I was talking about, he squat jerks it. I'll have to show you videos.
Well,
it's crazy.
That's pretty cool.
The mobility of it's insane.
I would never even. Yeah, I would. That's not how I would attempt it at all. But that guy is obviously a world champion. So there's something to be said about it.
Exactly. To think about overhead squatting 440 pounds.
That's insanity,
right?
And how much does he weigh?
He weighs 81 kilos. So
it's like as much as me.
Yeah, so he's 177.
That's exactly how much I weigh. Yep.
Yeah.
Dang, that's wild. They couldn't even put half that above my head, I feel like.
And dude, and this is a point that I kind of wanted to wrap back to for a second, because I think it's just something I want to talk about is I don't think this is why PED use is pretty rampant, right? Is because I don't think people realize it beats you the hell up. This type of training wears on your body.
I took that, so that USA, this is a good point, because even just like a small look at it, not any competitive weights at all. I mean, literally most of the class we're messing with a bar, but just from just a shoulder mobility standpoint and a sheer volume practicing technique, my shoulders were fried.
Yeah.
Like fried after just a weekend of doing it. And there was nothing I did that was serious weight where I was like, oh, that's impressive, Dan. Yeah. It was just us technique, and then shoulders done.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
When I was in the peak of my training, and this is just me, right? Like Olympic lifting competitors, like top level competitors, are training like twice a day, right? Like they probably have like 9 total sessions every single week, right?
Can you give me like a snapshot of what those sessions would look like? Because I don't think people have any clue of what
depends on their training. Depends on their training session, right?
Sure.
So it's a good question because it depends on the system, right? Different systems will train differently, right?
Is there a system? So this is what we're getting back. So is there a system you're more of a fan of than other ones? Like, I'm a big believer of this system or maybe these systems, and people do this system, but I don't like it as much because of X, Y, and Z. Not that it wouldn't work for somebody, but that maybe it's not your favorite.
So I do like the Chinese system quite a bit. Once again,
it's hard to argue with.
I was about to say results.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a little bit of a Chinese weightlifting fanboy for sure. They do a lot of bodybuilding accessory stuff. They're really big into like heavy pulls, right? Heavy squats, and they have their own intricacies, right? That are really different and niche compared to a lot of other people. But they put a really big emphasis into like building up muscle mass as well. And I think that helps a lot with just having the capacity to have the strength, right? And continuously doing that.
Yeah.
Accessory movements are important. They put a lot of emphasis into them, right?
I feel like a lot of times, I mean, even when you're just looking at training in general, you want somebody to have strength and stability before you start working on power anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe they take that to like a whole nother level.
Exactly. And not to say that other people don't, but I think the Chinese just put more of an emphasis onto it. And they're really big into like pulling really heavy weights constantly. Like I would say they do more like deadlifting and like accessory, once again, what we like to call accessory movements. So literally,
give us an example of some of them they might use, some accessory movements.
So like just a clean grip deadlift, right, is an accessory motion, right?
It's like a wider grip deadlift for those listening.
So not exactly actually. So snatch grip would be, right? Snatch grip would be. Snatch grip.
That's why I'm not an Olympic lifting.
It's okay.
Expert. Yeah.
Snatch grip would be where you have your hands out wider, right? Okay. But the clean grip is essentially the same grip as a deadlift to an extent, right? There's obviously slight differences, but you're just deadlifting it from the ground in more of a squatted position, right? Than you would normally. Yeah, so not quite as hinged. And so you're essentially taking it up like you would do a clean, exactly like you would clean. But
that's probably another problem with my cleans is I probably hinge too much.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Because it's almost like I'm trying to do an explosive deadlift.
Yeah. And you end up kind of kettlebell swinging it instead, I would imagine. Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm learning something already. Continue with what you're talking about.
I mean, hey, as I said, the coaching portion is what I love the most. So it's that's so accessory motions in Olympic lifting programming are essentially just motions that aren't the snatch or are not clean or jerks, right?
Right. So none of the main lifts.
Exactly.
Right?
None of the main lifts. Or like
two main Olympic lifts. For those that don't know either, because I feel like some people think Olympic lifting is the same as powerlifting.
No.
Too, which is but not at all. Olympic lifting has 2 lifts,
Yes.
right? It's the
Just
clean
the
and
snatch and
jerk
clean and jerk.
and the snatch.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
Those are the 2 lifts. Yeah. And then there's a million things that go into those 2 lifts for
Yes.
sure, because they're very complicated lifts.
Yeah.
Take me from, all right, somebody is interested in Olympic lifting. They're like, man, I want an Olympic lift. I've never done this
Yeah.
before. Take me through how you're helping that person, right? And just give them.
Yeah.
I know there's a million different movements. Let's say
No,
it's
I
like,
get what you're saying.
yeah,
I
like
think
a
I got
normal
this. Yeah.
somebody that doesn't lift all the time.
Yeah.
And they're just like walking the gym and like,
Yeah.
man, I saw this on TV. I think it would be so slick to do this.
Yeah. Hey.
What are you doing? Hey,
Hey.
yeah,
I
they
want a
start
front
with-
squat.
long pause is how you got to introduce anything. If you're going to find a trainer in the gym, this is very important. Make sure you address them with a hey, little head nod, and then also long, super pregnant pause. Like, again, next day do. And then say what it is that you want from them. And 100% of the time, you'll get a reaction. I can't promise what reaction.
It's probably gonna
For
be
me, I'll
it's
love
gonna be my reaction right now.
You'll start laughing.
Just
Whoa.
laughing super hard.
Maybe wide eyes, but they'll probably answer you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the important thing.
You'll get their attention if nothing
Yes,
else. All right,
exactly.
so
So somebody comes up to you.
yeah, so somebody comes up to
pregnant
me
pause.
and
They're not
exactly.
pregnant.
Yeah, they're not pregnant.
Just
It's a
their
pregnant
pauses.
pause, which means it's
Do the next thing.
do the next day.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for everybody who's trying to figure that one out in
Yeah.
their head.
I mean, whether or not we might have to C-section it, but it's coming tomorrow. So, all right. Go ahead, Alec.
Oh,
We
God.
just beat the crap out of this horse.
Oh god,
Yeah.
no, it's too good, man. I'm hoping that this turns into an inside joke that we can keep running. So
I love it. I
Well,
love it.
we'll see. But somebody who comes to me and they're like, "Hey, I want to."
I know. Yeah, but so comes in.
I want an Olympic
They love
lift.
Olympic
Yeah.
lifting, or they love the idea of it because they
Yeah.
watched it on TV.
Yeah.
They're already somewhat of a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
But they want to practice what they're watching. You know?
Yeah,
Like a little kid
yeah.
that wants to play a sport that they're watching. Like they had that excitement for it.
So there's fundamental movements that you have to be able to do before you Olympic lift, right? You got to be able to front squat. You have to overhead press. You have to push press. You have to overhead squat. You have to be able to deadlift effectively. You have to be able to clean grip deadlift. You have to snatch deadlift, like all those things.
That is a lot of things.
There's a lot of things. That's my prerequisite. So if I'm working with somebody and they can't do all of those motions, we're not continuing on. Because the Olympic lifts are really technical. There's a lot that goes into them.
But you could continue with them to get them good at those lifts and then work them that way. But you would
Yes.
want them to you would want them to understand the expectation,
Of course.
right? You're
Yeah.
not walking in the gym and just snatching.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing that I want to impress upon people.
I'm a pretty
right?
advanced lifter, and I don't think I could. I'm not confident that I could even. I don't think you would be happy with my stat. You'd be like, Dan, you're not snatching today. We're gonna work on X, Y, and Z. Maybe even Q. Who knows?
Yeah, and
A
I
lot of
mean
ladders
it's all
in there.
dependent as well too, right? Like if you're just looking to like to just do power work, right? And you just want a power snatch, right? And just to clarify for everybody, the difference between a power snatch and a snatch is a power snatch is when you're catching from parallel or above, right? So when you actually pull under the bar and catch the snatch at the top, so it's going all the way up, that you're standing more upright essentially, right? So the big thing that you want if it's just a power snatch, right? Like we just want to develop power, right? That might be a little bit different, right?
Same
But
thing with the clean. Like sometimes you
Yeah,
don't want to go
power
all the way under the
clean.
clean because you're not competing in it. You just want the power from
yeah,
it,
exactly. Hang cleans,
which is
power
what I would be
cleans.
interested in.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's a little bit more like athlete sport development kind of stuff, right? But if you actually want to compete in Olympic lifting,
This is a
yeah,
really,
go for
really
it.
good point that I don't think that people understand at all. Can you clarify what you're talking about right now? Because this is really important. It's something that I push a little bit. Because it's definitely a different technique just trying to compete in the clean versus getting power from the movement for your sport.
Yeah, so it's completely different in the idea of what you're trying to accomplish, right? Because if you're just looking to clean as a competitor, like you want to actually clean in actual setting, like what we were talking about, like where you walk up on stage, you clean and jerk, and then you go away, right? So that's a whole different type of story, right? We're talking about you are now competing in weightlifting. That's a sport of its own.
Right.
But if you're a football player, if you're a lacrosse player, if you're a rugby player, whatever, right? And you want to start developing more hip drive and more explosive vertical power, right? Then a power clean is something that can help you out a lot with that, right? because you're using your hips and you're using explosive lower body motion to be able to drive that bar to your shoulders. And that can be a really applicable motion for just power and speed development, right? And the snatch I wouldn't probably prescribe as much because there's a lot of overhead responsibility. Yeah. And so it's not quite as necessary in
Plus
my opinion.
not as much bang for your buck because you have to coach so much on the snatch.
Yeah.
Where you could do a different power motion that you could get a lot of sports applicable power from without having to worry about like months and months and months of coaching.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And when Alex talking about the power clean, he's talking about getting the technique because one of the technical aspects of a competitive power clean is getting underneath the bar, right? You explode up with the bar and then you get underneath it so that you can catch it at a lower point so that it's just it's more efficient for moving the bar.
Yeah.
However, if you wanted to transfer it to a sport, you're just worried about the hip extension and moving the weight with hip extension and then catching it a more upright position.
Yep.
Because the power from your hips is what you care about. You care about am I getting power from my hips? And am I translating that? I don't really care about the weight on the bar. I don't really care about getting on the bar because then we're coaching a different technique.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's not.
I think that's really important that people don't really think about that.
Exactly. And I think you brought up a really good point is the weight on the bar for sport development, right? Compared to weightlifting as its own sport should not matter as much, right?
Right.
Like if I'm a football player, yeah, it's cool if I can clean a lot, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. As long as you're whatever muscles you're developing through the clean is able to translate onto the field.
Yeah.
Right.
Are your hip flex, are they extending? Is the bar moving quickly?
Exactly.
Those are good things. Are you now slowly starting to get progressive overload with it? Amazing.
Sure.
Do you care about the technique of going under the bar so you can be more efficient right away? I don't know, because now you're coaching something else. And,
and that's not going to be as applicable. Like an actual clean, right, where you're taking it from a very like a deep full squat doesn't make as much sense for a football player to learn because how often are they going to be sitting in that position during a game, right? They're not going to be there, right? Power cleans make way more sense for them because they're going to be taking it from, especially even hang cleans, right? Like so, hang cleans are just somewhere where you're going to take it from. You're not taking it from the ground. You're taking it from the knees, typically, probably anywhere like a little bit above the knees, and you're just cleaning from there, right? Hang power cleans are really effective because they develop really good hip drive, right? As Dan was saying. And so the biggest key difference there, right, is that if I'm competing in the sport of weightlifting, right, then you have to learn how to get into a deep squat and a deep clean because you need to be able to get as much weight up as possible. And for you to do that effectively, it's more about you being able to get underneath the bar than it is about getting the bar up high enough. And that's a really big thing that people misunderstand is they constantly think about how high can I get the bar? How far can I throw that thing up in the air during the snatch, right? That's not the case. Matter of fact, the huge misconception with what they call the third pull is it's not just pulling and yanking the bar up, right? It's actually pulling yourself underneath the bar, right? And that's a huge, huge, huge component because then you can get the bar. You only have to get the bar
because one's way more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah, pulling yourself underneath the bar is way more efficient.
Yeah, for sure.
But very technical.
And
I'm
it's
really crappy at it.
Super technical, yes.
Thanks.
But you're right. I was gonna say I wasn't
I know you were.
beating you up. I mean, you're like, you're average at best, but
maybe I thought.
You even got to laugh at a mic. That makes me feel good. So it's just one of those things where you have to realize what you're trying to accomplish with it, right? As for anything.
As for all of exercise. Exactly. And that's really important because I think that a lot of people, I've seen even coaches go, we are doing Olympic lifting for sport.
Yeah.
And I want this to be like our program. I'm like, no, I don't think that's a good use of your time. I think there's aspects of Olympic lifting and cues in Olympic lifting that are amazing, right? Yeah. Those are some really important concepts. But having all of your athletes do these two motions, I feel like is almost, it's a waste of efficient time. Yeah. And it's an efficiency-driven sport, so it's kind of ironic that people would pick, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And now if you want to use it as you have even your normal everyday person, if they're psyched about Olympic lifting and they're going to go through the progressions for it, and that's going to get them in the gym all the time, that's amazing. Yeah. Like that is so cool because that's going to keep somebody more motivated to be in the gym than almost any other thing that you could pick, right? Any other especially any kind of negative thing like they feel fat shamed or something crazy like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Something positive like that, where like, I love this sport and I want to get better at it.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to keep them in the gym. That's going to keep them motivated. I love that kind of thing. You have somebody that actually wants to compete.
Yep.
Like that makes a lot of sense. Again, because there's a love of the sport there, and then they're also trying to be great at something, which I think is awesome too.
Yeah, man, and it's a amazing feeling to coach somebody from square one. Matter of fact, actually, one of my favorite clients that I've ever worked with, Jeff. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm shouting you out right now. So,
All right, Jeff.
Jeff was just, he had never really lifted before, right? Never in his life. And I took him pretty much from that square one, and we started working towards Olympic lifting, right? He had determined pretty quickly that that was something that we were going to work towards. And he saw me doing it as a sport, and he was just like, yeah, let's do this. And so Jeff was really just like, he saw me 3 times a week, just methodical, right? Like we would just come in and we just continue to progress his movements, just like I was telling you before, right? We worked on those base level movements first, got more into the explosive portions of it, then started getting better and more efficient at the positions. And next thing you know, by the time I'm getting promoted and leaving for him to continue to work with actually my coach, he actually started working with my coach afterwards. He was snatching 145 and then clean and jerking 185.
God, that's awesome.
Yeah. And the dude was smaller than I was. He was like he was like 5'5", like 135 pounds or something. Like he was a tiny guy.
Dang.
Yeah. And so he just like, but his motions were super fluid. His snatch looked better than mine. Like it really did. It was amazing. Like the motion was just really, really consistent. And it was just, I think just watching him be able to lift like that it gave me so much pride. And I wish I could tell him to this day. I should probably text him and just be like, dude, one of my favorite
I'm
clients.
sure he's listening, just like the millions of people that we have.
Yes, millions.
But worldwide, I think we are now.
Yes.
I believe.
I would imagine. Yeah. Just once
we
again,
have,
sponsors.
We have at least one listener in Canada. Thank you, Taylor.
Whoever Taylor is, thank you.
He's a good man. He's a good man up there, Victoria Island.
Nice. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's just such a rewarding sport to coach because it's back to that artistry of it, right? You watch it and you just see the motion click for them, and just the moment that it clicks, it's just beautiful to watch. You feel like a really proud father, right?
Yeah.
Like, which you obviously know exactly how
sure.
that feels, right? So it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just a really fun sport to coach, in my opinion. And I think that if you want to try it out, like if I could give a ringing endorsement, guys, if you want to try Olympic lifting out, I highly, highly recommend it. It's too much fun.
That's awesome. That's a good, and I want to close on this.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of coaching, why somebody is trying to choose between coaches, you're up to tell them how you're going to make them better and why they should choose you. What are you saying?
Pretty much exactly what I was just telling you, because I'm not just going to throw them into the stuff right away, because I have the patience and the understanding to be willing to take them from the ground all the way up to where their motions look good. And for Olympic lifting, if you can get into the right positions, if your technique is sound, your weight is going to continue to move up. And if you're willing to progress with me like that, then you're going to get there. And that's why you would work with me over somebody who just throws you right into the motions. Like, hey, let's go clean right away. Or, hey, let's go snatch right away. It's because you're learning those foundational movements and because you're getting better and more efficient at them. That's what's going to take you from not just like average. You're going to be actually good by the end of it. Whereas the other, you might just continue to kind of go through the same motions over and over again and constantly be wondering why you weren't getting better.
Or hurt yourself.
They're easy motions to hurt yourself on.
Answer, that's a good answer. That actually motivates me. Like now I want to like throw something across the room. I'm so excited. Hold on, Wolf Dog, you're going for a ride. I'm just kidding, Wolf Dog. This is the Wolf Dog and no explanation. You guys get no explanation for why the Wolf Dog is there or who the Wolf Dog is.
Yeah, but they can see it on YouTube, so subscribe to our YouTube channel.
True, but they still don't know what she I don't even know if they know she's a dog, because I'm not sure she's a dog.
I mean, her toes kind of moving right now.
She looks kind of like a sheep.
I think she's dreaming.
She's 100% dreaming. Yeah. Look at her flipper. This is an aquatic mammal of sorts. Well, now there's an argument with this because I screw this up every time. How do we close this thing off?
Well, it depends on how you want to close this thing off.
Do I go into the lab Or do you start saying like, share, and subscribe? Or do we separate those things? Mike Hamilton?
Let's go to Alec.
Okay.
Alec, take us home.
Well, hey, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk a little bit about my life. Really, it means a lot. And was really, really, really excited and happy to be able to share my love of weightlifting with everybody out there who's listening right now. So please, if you do enjoy the podcast, and I promise I'm not going to be rambling every single episode, like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, as I had just previously talked about, right? Make sure you hit that little bell so every time we put up a channel or every time we put up an episode, that you can get that immediate notification. Furthermore, if you want to take the podcast route, also look for us on pretty much every platform that you can find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. more. Subscribe. You can find us there. It's just as good. We appreciate you all. Dan, back to you.
And thank you guys, again, just like Alex said, for listening to us as another episode of The Lab.